We have a serious problem when the person who's supposed to be the President of the United States despises the court system and is essentially putting a hit on every single judge with his rhetoric. And a man who says he's for law and order shouldn't be speaking out against the judges. But he's actually contradicting himself, because last night he pretty much said, I respect the court's opinion, and we will comply with the law in the courts, but we will also continue to seek every legal remedy to ultimately overturn these radical injunctions and ensure Trump's policies can be enacted. This was said by the press secretary yesterday, Caroline Leavitt. Well, isn't that contradictory to what Trump said? Trump said he's all for law and order, he's all for following the courts and complying with them, and we're all for appealing each one. But what Leavitt is saying is, we will comply with the law, but we will also continue to seek to overturn these radical interjections. What she's basically saying is, we don't approve of what the judge is saying. We don't approve of the ruling, but we're going to comply with the law. Which is contradictory in itself, because you can't have it both ways. You can't follow the law, but then overturn something you think is radical. Because if you're going against what the rulings are saying anyway, if you're going against the court anyway, and saying, I can do whatever I want because the Supreme Court said I have immunity, but then you're not complying with the court. You see, you can't have it both ways. It's a double-edged sword, and the fact is that, are you going to comply with the law, which means that the judge is ordering you to reinstate the federal programs? If the judge is telling you to rehire everybody you fired, does that mean, and if you comply with the law, does that mean you're going to do that? Rehire everybody? And end the freeze of all the federal money and programs? Or are you going to tell people what they want to hear and still do whatever it is you're doing? But then when you start accusing the court systems of being weaponized, you're basically telling your supporters, your cult, that it's okay to go after them because they are in my way. That is basically what you're basically saying. And if you keep saying to everybody, we are for law and order, what Joe Biden is doing is disgrace, and it's lawlessness and everything, and I will restore law and order when I became the president. Great. Then if you're for law and order, you wouldn't have pardoned the January 6 people. You wouldn't have referred to them as hostages. You wouldn't have referred to them as political prisoners. And you wouldn't have pardoned any one of them. And if you're for law and order, you would obey the court's rulings. And if you're for law and order, you wouldn't continually break the law. So which one is it? Because I'm confused. You say one thing, and you're doing another thing. So which one is it? And speaking of things that you've broken the law for, your new FCC chair, Brandon Carr, is on a warpath here with the networks. First you have CBS, and I want to discuss the network. I don't really have any specific topic today, but I want to discuss that. Your CBS lawsuit. That is a frivolous lawsuit, as I discussed earlier in another podcast. It's you're seeking not only is it a frivolous lawsuit, but you raised the money amount that you want. So you're either greedy or you're an extortionist, because you're asking for $20 million right now because you are not happy that 16 Minutes, what you could claim they did with Kamala Harris, where they showed one thing during the advertising, during the promoting it, but then they ended up airing a different thing during the broadcast. Which is not illegal, by the way. As somebody who's actually in the industry, I can tell you that this is pretty normal. Because when you're promoting something, things can change once you have the final cut. It could change. They're not promoting the questions. They're promoting the interview. They're saying, coming up tonight or coming up in 3 weeks, check out our interview with so-and-so. But the interview maybe wasn't done yet. Maybe the interview is taking place, but you're just promoting it. It's like when Donald Trump did his interview with Bret Baier for the Super Bowl. We knew 2 days in advance Donald Trump is sitting down with Bret Baier doing the presidential edition of an interview before the Super Bowl. We knew about that. But when was the interview taped? Had it even been done yet? What is wrong with that? And then you have things like the NPR PBS thing. I read today that PBS settled, but it's really stupid. I mean, that because you don't like something, you're going to attack it. Nobody's ever had, no president that I know of has ever had an issue with PBS or NPR. But the thing is, you surround yourself with people, that Donald Trump surrounds himself with people who are so in their own little bubble over there that if they say something to Donald Trump says, orders it to get done. He doesn't ask for any facts. He doesn't say anything. He just believes it. But I want to talk about this one for a second. I wrote this on my blog over at Substack, and where I actually host this podcast. And I wrote that after going after CBS, NPR, PBS, the FCC is now going after Comcast, NBC for promoting DEI. That's the diversity, equality, and integrity that Donald Trump got rid of. But here's the humorous part about this. In what they claim is violation of the law and civil rights. I'm going to repeat that. The FCC is going after Comcast for promoting DEI in what the FCC claims in violation of the law and civil rights. I'm going to say that again. The FCC is going after Comcast because Comcast is being accused of promoting DEI. And the FCC is claiming it's in violation of civil rights and in violation of the law. Let that sink in. Diversity, equality, and integrity. Inclusion. Diversity, equality, and inclusion is now a crime because Donald Trump said it is. And it's now in violation of the law and the civil rights. Except for one problem. DEI was part of civil rights. That is what protected people. That's where you get the equal opportunity for every job you ever do or get hired for. When it says we are an equal opportunity employer, we do not discriminate against race, creed, religion. And you're saying it's a violation of civil rights. But you took away our civil rights. You're basically saying black people are no longer welcome here. Black people can't work here anymore. We can't sell black items anymore. Isn't that why Target caved? Isn't that why Walmart caved? Or Amazon? And the latest one to do it is Disney. Well, you're basically, isn't that? So, what civil rights are they? What are you accusing them of? What civil rights? For those who don't know, Brandon Carr wrote the communication section of Project 2025. That's right. Russell Vought, who was confirmed to run the OMB, which is the Office of Management and Budget, was a whole architect of Project 2025. You know, the one that Donald Trump said he knew nothing about, the one he said he had nothing to do with and wasn't involved in. Yet everything he's done so far was word for word taken from Project 2025. Yep. He wrote the chapter of the FCC. And when he's writing in the FCC, he's going after Comcast because Donald Trump told him to. He's going after Comcast because he's trying to get rid of DEI in everything. He's not going to be done. Once he's done with Comcast and NBC, he's going to go after everybody else. He's going to go after HBO. He's going to go after the Hollywood studios. He's going to go after ABC, Disney. You're going to see he's going to go after every single one until DEI no longer is a lexicon in the American language. He is going to make sure it is done. In fact, here is what he wrote. This is exactly what he wrote in his thing, which is not here, and I'm not going to read it to you. In a nutshell, he wrote, a handful of corporations today shape everything from the information we consume to the places we shop. These corporations are not merely exercising market power, they are abusing dominant positions. The FCC should restrict immunity from Section 230, which is part of a law that says tech companies aren't liable if a user posts something libelous, as well as tamp down the business abilities to censor protected speech while maintaining their Section 230 protections. He also wants more transparency about their algorithm changes and their decisions to block or demonetize users. Now, I don't know how the algorithm works, and neither does he. It's a scientific thing. It's way above my pay grade. Clearly, it's above Carr's pay grade. It's an exact science and math that I don't know, that I'm not privy to, so I don't discuss it. So I don't know what that means. You know, and as far as TikTok goes, Carr actually signaled out TikTok and other Chinese businesses as potential threats to U.S. security. Now, keep in mind, Donald Trump undid the ban of TikTok because he said he would work with TikTok to find the solution. Something he has yet to do, but the United States still has TikTok banned. It's still not available it's no longer available in the Google store or the Apple store. And it's still banned by the Supreme Court. The executive order wasn't to unban TikTok. The executive order was, we're going to leave it going temporarily until we find a solution with the company. Something Trump has not yet done. But Part 25 does say it is a security. So he does agree with Congress on that bill. So I do give him that credit. Which means he does agree with Joe Biden saying there is a security risk on that. But as far as broadcasters go with the FCC, he does agree with Donald Trump on CBS that CBS does do political bias, which means they're favoring one candidate over the other based on how they feel about the person. But networks don't do that. News organizations don't do that because they can't be biased, because that's unethical. And journalists have integrity. And why and if you're going to single out, and what about, and you could say the same thing, what about Fox? Fox is pro-Trump. Everything that Donald Trump says, They don't fact check him. They agree. They go along with him. So how is CBS doing political bias? How is NBC doing political bias? But Fox, Newsmax, they can go pro-Trump and anti-Biden. That's not biased. You're favoring one over the other. For instance, Brandon Carr singled out NBC for including Trump's Democratic rival Kamala Harris in a Saturday Night Live skit before the election. First off, and I don't know for sure, but let's assume for a second, Kamala's people called up Lauren and said, hey, can we come on the show? We're in town, can we come on the show? And Lauren says, absolutely. Donald Trump hosted Saturday Night Live. It's not like they won't have him on the show. He hosted the show more than once. So how can it be political bias? They allowed Donald Trump on the show. He hosted the show. So where is the bias there? If Donald Trump wants to come on the show, all he has to do... This is a guy who actually hates Saturday Night Live. He wants it canceled. So why would he even... why would he go on the show? But number one. Number two, his hatred of the show is what Carr is saying, hey, we don't like you because you chose one over the other. And he probably doesn't even know that Trump hates SNL because they make fun of him. And he doesn't like that. And according to this, Carr wrote, this is a clear and blatant effort to evade the FCC's equal time rule. The purpose of the rule is to avoid exactly this type of biased and partisan conduct, a licensed broadcaster using the public areas to exert its influence for one candidate on the eve. Carr ensured that he will enforce the laws and compromise will operate in the public interest. I really don't think the public really cares who goes on what shows. As long as the show is good, it has good writing, and it has my interest, that's all I care about. I don't care who's hosting. If I'm not interested in the host of Saturday Night Live, Elon Musk hosted SNL. I never saw that show. I do work for that show, but I had nothing to do with it. I distanced myself from that show that week because I did not want Elon Musk on that show. It's not my call. He's not funny, but he went on that show. He's in politics right now. He's doing things in the United States government right now that nobody asked him to do. He wasn't nominated. He wasn't voted. He wasn't elected. He wasn't confirmed. And yet here we are. People have complained about that, but no one is saying anything. The judges are stopping him, and Donald Trump is going after the judges and saying, we weaponized the court system. We're gonna comply with the order, but we're gonna go after you. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. Either you like the person or you don't like the person. Networks can do whatever they want. They're not violating any laws. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. For all you know, like I said, Kamala could have been in town and said, hey, could we come on the show? Or maybe Lauren found out, or somebody from his staff found out and asked Kamala, hey, would you like to come on the show? Has anybody considered that maybe they asked Donald Trump and he said no, coming on the show? In fact, Trump has reportedly called to strip major broadcasters such as ABC, NBC, and CBS of their license. On his campaign, he sued 60 Minutes over that Kamala 60 Minutes interview, due to the fact that he believes they deceitfully edited her responses. No evidence to back it up, but he's convinced, and that's why he sued them. And obviously, Trump, the narcissist, was praising Carr as a warrior for free speech. He's a warrior for free speech. But his relationship with Elon Musk is questionable and very problematic. And he's saying he's for free speech, but he refused to stand up when Trump threatened to take away the broadcast rights of television stations who wanted to fact check him during the campaign. That alone should be disqualifying, because you can't say you're for free speech, but only when it benefits you. There's nothing wrong with fact-checking. Every candidate has been fact-checked over the years. Kamala Harris was fact-checked. Joe Biden was fact-checked. They had a debate during the campaign. They were all fact-checked. The next day, they were all fact-checked. And not one person came back and said, we are suing the network because they're calling us liars. You know why? Because that is the network, that is a news organization's job, to fact check, to call them out when their facts are either wrong or misleading. But if you don't like fact checking, you're basically saying, free speech only works in my favor. It's good for me, but not thee. But it doesn't work like that. Fact checking just means your viewers. We're informing our readers. We're informing our viewers. They heard information, they read information, but it may not be so clear. We are clarifying this information. And I have to tell you, communication is really, really important. Because if you don't clarify something, what you say is going to be implied a certain way. And when it's implied, people that's how it's going to be perceived, and that's how it's going to be responded, and that's how you're going to respond. And if you blame it on somebody else, and it's happening to me, I responded in kind to something that was implied. I was very mean and nasty about it, and it's my fault. And all denying accountability is non-existent. And that's why it's important to communicate and clarify. And that's why fact-checking is important. Yes, he's right, but it's a little bit misleading with the numbers. Yes, he's right, but it's a little bit misleading on how it's being done. So we're going to fact-check to give it to you. You don't like that? Well, you know what? That's the Constitution. That's what free speech is about. That's the First Amendment. I have a right to say whatever I want within reason. You don't have a right to sue me because you don't have a right to sue me because you don't like to do a fact check. Can you sue me? Yes, legally. I can sue anybody. Legally, you can sue anybody you want. It doesn't mean it's going to go through the courts. Doesn't mean it's going to go anywhere. If it's a frivolous lawsuit, the judge will throw it out of court and say, ha ha ha. Just like the election that was claimed to be rigged 4 years ago when Trump lost. They went to the judges and said, the election's rigged. Here's our evidence. The judge said, that's not evidence. You'll have to do a lot better than that. To this day, they're convinced the election was rigged, but they have no proof. They have no evidence whatsoever because none exists. And that's why it's important. In fact, the FCC pick in November, this was an article in the Free Press. The FCC pick is willing to do Trump's bidding, reward billionaires, and attack newsrooms. Even if the newsroom is doing their job and providing the American people with the important news, they will attack the newsroom because that is what Donald Trump wants them to do. Because if Donald Trump isn't... And by the way, not only is this what a narcissist does, by the way, this is what a dictator does. Forget the narcissist part, forget the dictator part, but this is what a narcissist does. The attention has to be on them. Me, I, and nobody else. They need the attention, they need the validation, and they need the admiration. And if anybody speaks bad about them in a bad light, they can't handle it and they'll throw a temper tantrum until they get what they want. And what Donald Trump wants is to these broadcastings to lose their license so they can never broadcast again. Okay? Donald Trump hates CNN. He hates MSNBC because they speak bad about him. Okay? You ever wonder why Donald Trump never spoke bad about Judge Eileen Cannon? You never wonder why he never speaks bad about Fox since that Arizona incident? You ever wonder why he never speaks bad about Newsmax or One America? You ever notice that? Because they cater to him. They give him exactly what he wants. Judge Eileen Cannon always ruled in Trump's favor. Fox always talks about him, adulely, admiringly. They never fact check him. They let him say whatever the hell he wants. And that is what their viewers hear. And the viewers believe that it's correct. Even if you call them out. If you call them out, they will say, oh, at least I'm not watching CNN where they lie. Or MSNBC, or MSDNC is what they call it now. So you believe propaganda over actual people who actually are qualified and actually been there. Because I said I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but Republicans do go on NBC News on the Sunday morning programs. I tell you that. They go on ABC. They go on CBS. And they get called out. But they try to twist it to make sure, to convince everybody that they're right. Lawrence O'Donnell, who I really like, on MSNBC. Do you know that he was a writer on West Wing? Now, I've never seen the show, but he was a writer on the West Wing. He was also a speechwriter in the White House, I believe during Clinton's term or Bush, one of them. I don't remember. So he's actually been in Washington. He knows the ins and outs of Washington. He knows the bullshit that goes on in Washington. And he'll call out that bullshit that's going on in Washington. Just like he called out last night with Elon Musk upstaging Trump. Supposedly Donald Trump is the president, but he got upstaged by Elon Musk. With one of his children. Musk's son, not Trump's. Okay? Elon Musk spoke over 3,000 words in the White House yesterday, in the Oval Office yesterday. Donald Trump got less than that. It should be the other way around. If you are the President of the United States, you give the President more time and more respect than you give to anybody else. If you're going to see the President of the United States, you also wear a suit and tie. Because just like you would go to a king, just like we'd all dressed up to see a king, or a rabbi, or a priest. Why is Elon Musk wearing a jacket with a t-shirt, with a cap, and all black? And why is his 11-year-old son, there? And that's why I say Elon Musk is playing Donald Trump. Because Elon Musk is in the Oval Office upstaging Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, supposedly, is the President of the United States. And when you're the President of the United States, you're supposed to get the respect it deserves. And I'm not saying I have respect for Donald Trump. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that just like you would have respect for a king, just like you would have respect for your clergy leader, your rabbi, or your father, or somebody you would highly respect, and just like you would go just nice for them, and respect them, and honor them. You're Elon Musk. You're nobody. Who are you? You're a nobody. You don't have any power in the government. Just because Donald Trump gives you the authorization to do whatever it is you're doing, doesn't make you powerful. Just because you're the richest person in the world doesn't mean you're powerful. Just because you're Elon Musk and you own all these companies doesn't make you powerful. Just because you bought the presidency doesn't mean you're powerful. Just because it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. And I'm not endorsing Elon Musk for what he's doing. I'm not endorsing Donald Trump as the president. I am giving you common sense. And just yesterday, with this whole thing that's going on with the upstaging, Trump says he's giving Doge even more power than they already have. So who's playing who? Is Donald Trump being manipulated by Musk? Or is he secretly getting more money into his pocket from Musk? Or is Musk promising him riches or something like that? He signed an executive order to give tech billionaire Elon Musk more power over the federal workforce, which is going to give him more political influence, more power in Washington, to the point where people are just going to cave to him and say, fuck it, you win. I throw the towel in, fuck it. That's not a good thing, though. That is actually not a good thing. Because if the politicians start giving in to this madness that's going on right now, we have nothing. He wants Musk to do more than he's already doing. He's dismantling federal agencies by breaking the law. Because only Congress has the power to do this. And not Musk. And Musk is going in there. We don't know what he's doing. We don't know the reasoning why he's doing what he's doing. He's just going in there and... So we don't know. And he's getting more and more power. And this is a really, really dangerous thing. You realize this. To be honest, I don't understand why people are happy about this. I don't know why people... You say there's fraud. And you're telling people that you found fraud. And you found a bunch of money that's going to waste. But you have no evidence to back it up. So why would we believe you? You're going to a press conference, you're addressing the nation, and you're saying, I'm giving Musk more power because those did find exactly what they said they were going to do, which is they found fraud and they found money that's going to waste. Great. Where's the evidence? Where's the proof? When somebody asks you the question of what exactly was the fraud, and you're not answering the question, you either don't know, you're either lying, or you are just trying to have somebody point fingers at somebody else. And when I ask you the question and you just send me a screenshot to prove your point, well, you're not credible. Because that screenshot can come from anywhere. I can go on Google, type in a fraud clip art, and put it and send it to you too. I could do the same thing. How stupid do you think people are? And this is even a better one for you. This is a better one. How would you have that information if nobody else has it? If it was on Twitter, don't you think the news media would already have it? Don't you think if Elon Musk put it on Twitter, don't you think the news media would already have it and it would have been on their websites, and it would be on and they would have aired it on TV and they would have shown it? Don't you think that? So how would you have it? Especially since it's classified information. Although, considering that they're breaking into law, I wouldn't put it past them anyway. And since Trump is praising his work, as if nothing is wrong here, you have to wonder, is Trump really that stupid that he doesn't know how the process works? Or was he really manipulated by Musk to convince him otherwise? Or the third option is that Trump actually knows, he just doesn't give a shit. And is he oblivious to the fact that they're facing multiple lawsuits from all sides? Labor unions, Democratic state attorney generals. And by the way, speaking of which, do you notice it's only Democratic states that are suing him? Do you ever notice that the red states are like just staying quiet and not doing anything? Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? And anybody who remains silent during this whole thing is complicit in this. But they're trying to find if it's within the law, even though it's already been told it's not. But again, you ever notice that it's only the Democratic states that are suing with the labor alongside the labor unions, and the red states are like keeping quiet and not going to piss off Musk or Trump? Which begs the question: who are they afraid of more, Trump or Musk? And what's in it for them if they are staying quiet? Do they not care that it's going to affect the people in their states, and they're going to want, and then these people, and then the people in the state are going to come after the governor because they're going to they're going to demand answers? Why aren't the mayors doing anything? Has anybody ever thought of that? And if your reasoning is, well, the Democrats hate Trump, and that's why they're doing this. No, that's not why they're doing it. They're doing it because they're doing the right thing by doing lawsuits. Why are the labor unions doing it? Because it's affecting the employers. Because these employers are union workers who now got fired by a psychopath, manipulator, narcissist, instead of going through the unions and instead of doing it the right way. So when your excuse is, well, they're Democrats hate Trump, so they're doing everything they can to hurt him, then either you're in denial or ignorant, or the cult is even stupider than I thought it was. Because that can't be your excuse for everything. That can't be your excuse for everything. Look, and I'm not biased. I don't like Trump. True. But there were things about Biden that I didn't like either, and I called him out on. But at the end of the day, it's not my call. At the end of the day, it's above my pay grade. All we can do is, well, I'm sure there's reasons for it, is what I can say. That's not defending him. That's basically using common sense. Saying, well, I don't know. You don't know what goes on behind closed doors. It was like the negotiating of the ceasefire agreement. We had to say, oh, it's convenient that Biden signed it like 3 days before he's leaving office. Really? You don't know that. How do you know they weren't How do you know they weren't negotiating for the last 6 months? How do you know? How do you know what they were doing behind closed doors? You don't know if they were negotiating. You don't know how long they were negotiating for. It just so happens the timing happened to be now. That's all. You don't know. It just happened to be the timing was now. It's just a coincidence. No, you're saying that because you love the Biden. I'm like, really? So you know what goes on behind closed doors? You know what the negotiation tactics are? You know what goes on in the negotiations? Are you saying they timed it on purpose so that they can give Biden the credit as one big F you to Trump? You're like, you must have TDS, you're a liberal. No, I don't. It's called having common sense and understanding a little bit of how government works, and considering how civics work and how diplomacy works. And I am educated and well read to know a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. And I know for a fact that they were negotiating for the ceasefire on and off for a year. I also know that it wasn't just the United States. It was Qatar orchestrating it, Jordan, Egypt, all of these countries. So yeah, I do know a little bit. And yes, I do, and I will call out both parties, yes, and I will call people out for their BS. But if you want to debate me. Don't curse out people and attack them and calling them names because you don't like what they're hearing. Because if they're saying facts, if they're pointing out the facts, and you're saying you're wrong, and Trump is the president, and he obviously knows what he's talking about, I'm like, okay, then let's agree to disagree. But you don't need to insult me. You don't need to insult my intelligence. You don't need to curse me out, and you don't have to call me names. You can debate me and tell me why am I wrong. And I'll tell you why you're wrong. And that's every discussion. If you don't want to do that, well, tough shit, Sherlock. That's the way life works. That's facts. So, getting back to the Doge thing, about the respect, Trump and Musk did take questions, but they refused to give details about the alleged fraud that they had found. Which I said, facts. You want to say you found fraud? Okay, tell me about the fraud. Where is the fraud? Who did it? Where did it come from? How do we fix it? How do we prevent it from happening again? That are questions you need. Those are questions you ask, and you can say, "Well, we're not sure yet." Blah blah blah. It's classified. We're working on it. We'll have a solution for you pretty soon. That's you do. But when you're going to terminate 89 contracts that are worth millions of dollars, tell us why. Were they considered part of the waste? Or were they not? And you just terminate the contracts because you felt like it. And do you take the money back? Do you give the money back? Or what not? Like, how would that work? And here we go again with fact checking. There are independent fact checkers who aren't partisan, who aren't biased or anything. They're independent. They are skeptical of his claim, of his waste. One of them is his claim that the United States made a mistake on spending $50 million in condoms to Gaza. There was no evidence, and then he made a mistake, saying, "Oh, wait a minute, we sent it to the wrong Gaza." There's only one, as far as I know, there's only one Gaza. Number one. Number two, why are you sending condoms to Gaza? How is that aid? Condoms are available worldwide. They don't need to be shipped out to Gaza. That's not considered. I don't consider sending condoms as help, as aid. How is that going to help people? How is that going to help people? Oh, big deal. You send it to them. Now they're going to sell it on the black market for double the price. Whoop-de-doo. Great. Now what? And you're turning on funding for Ebola and HIV? What about everything else? You took them all away. Why only Ebola and HIV? You don't think other diseases can come into this country just like that? You don't think polio can come back? You don't think monkeypox can come back? Why are you turning on funding only for these two things? Why specifically HIV? Why specifically Ebola? HIV prevention is great and all. Ebola funding is great and all. But what about the rest of what about funding for everything else that's going on? The aid you took away when you shut down USAID. Much needed aid from third world countries who can barely afford food. And when people are asking questions about, are you concerned that this is violating the Constitution? And you don't seem concerned about that? But you're calling the judges corrupt? I question that. I question that 1,000%. Your concern, your concerns about violating the Constitution is like non-existent, but you're accusing the judges who are actually telling you violate the Constitution, and you're calling them corrupt, and that they should be impeached, and accusing them, and then saying they weaponized the justice system. And Vance's comment was saying, get rid of checks and balances, and you don't even acknowledge that. Which means you're okay with what Vance says. He's your vice president, and you're okay with what he says. Even though what he's saying is murky, is dangerous territory. And taking away the very bureau that protects consumers from scams and fraud and high bank fees, you're basically giving a gift to the corporate world and to other companies, saying, don't worry, if you fuck over the customer, you're safe. They can't do anything because they're not protected, but if you fuck them over, That's okay. They can't sue. And if they sue, they will lose. So don't worry about it. We got your back. Yeah, we got your back. That's essentially what you are saying. And when a reporter asked Musk, well, is this conflict of interest for you? Because you have several companies, and who says you're not going to, and who says Trump is not one of your, who says you're not going to enrich yourself from what you're doing? He claims that he's not the one doing the contracts for SpaceX. He's not the one signing them. It's your company, Mr. Musk. It's your company. You have to sign off on everything, right? Are you saying that you have people in your company that can approve things without your okay? That they could that doesn't need your signature? And by the way, they have $3.8 million in federal contracts. And that's according to government data. And I can guarantee you Musk is not going to touch that because it's going to benefit him. I can guarantee you his federal contracts for SpaceX, he ain't touching that one because he got $3.8 billion. He's pocketing that money. If they take away the funding for his company, then SpaceX is done. That's a conflict of interest, isn't it? He's been enriched by the federal government. That'd be considered waste, right? And when a reporter asked Trump about if he would need congressional approval, Trump basically brushed it aside and went to the next question. In fact, he was quoted as saying, I really don't know. If I need a vote of Congress to find fraud and abuse, it's fine with me. I think we'll get the vote. Well, newsflash, you do need Congress's vote. You don't. You're not going to get that vote. And if you knew that, we wouldn't be in the position we're in at the moment. So you just basically lied to a reporter, and that reporter is going to fact check you. And when you find out, you're not going to like it too much, are you? And going back to the judges the court system being weaponized, Trump attacked a federal judge in New York who granted a temporary restraining order Saturday related to George activity, calling the judge an activist. So you are now basically contradicting yourself. You are basically telling everybody that you know what you're doing is against the law. This is the game of tell me you're breaking the laws without saying you're breaking the laws. Because that's what you're doing. So because he got a restraining order preventing Doge from accessing records in the Treasury Department, you're going to attack him and call him an activist because you're not getting what you want. First of all, that's not exactly what an activist is anyway, by the way. That's not an activist. But okay, let's put that aside. What you're basically saying is the judge is not letting him go, so they're an activist because he has no right to give him a restraining order. Yeah, well, I hate to tell you this. Musk doesn't have a right to have a coup doesn't have a right to access classified personal information of millions of Americans either when he has no authorization to do so, but he's doing it. You have no right to break federal law, but you're doing it. You have no right to fire federal employees, but you did it anyway. So if you can't, if you're allowed to do it, then the judge is allowed to do that. This is tit for tat, right? The judge wouldn't need to do that. If you weren't doing A, the judge wouldn't have to do B. Do you see how this works? You do A, and the response is the judge doing B, and your response is going to do C, which is, fuck the judge, I'm going to do it anyway. You see what happens? It's a chain reaction. Actions have consequences. You do one, eventually people are going to start noticing things that they haven't noticed before. And eventually when people catch on to it, they're going to fight. What do you think was going to happen? You think your MAGA cult may be stupid, Mr. Trump, but there are still people with common sense and a brain who know that things that are happening aren't right. And it's not even a month yet, and it's only been 3 weeks in Trump's in office, and already over 52 lawsuits have been filed against him. What president has had so many lawsuits filed against him in so little time? What do you think was going to happen? That people voted for him and they'd be happy because he's doing exactly as he promised to do? Great. But at what expense? At my expense? At someone else's expense? What do you think was going to happen? That your cult was going to side by you and say, well, he knows what he's doing. I trust him. Yeah, until it happens, until one day you'll go into your bank account and find out every single penny is missing. Then what are you going to do then? Blame it on the Democrats and say, why do the Democrats do this? Also, in regards to immigration, ask yourself, is Elon Musk legal? Is he a legal citizen here? Because he is an immigrant. He's from South Africa. That's a known fact. But this executive order that he did last night was only for Musk to get more power, more influence. That's all it was. Donald Trump was basically giving Donald Trump... Basically, the executive order was basically for the benefit of Elon Musk. To basically tell Elon Musk, I trust you, I have faith in you, I'm expending your power, knock yourself out, who cares what happens? And basically, you just fired 2.4 million federal workers when you shut down the agencies. And you're basically giving a gift to our enemies by saying these agencies no longer exist. Our security, we have no security. You're free to come in and do whatever you want. Don't worry, Elon is not going to stop you, and neither will I. Come right in. Take what you want for granted. But you gave a speech during your campaign saying we will not let the bad guys come anywhere near us, and we will do all we can to stop the bad guys from coming in. Really? It seems to me like you're opening the door and giving them the keys to the safe. That's what it seems to me. So if you're trying to prevent the bad guys from coming in, it seems to me you're just giving them the keys to the safe and saying, come right in, the water's fine. Right? You gotta love when narcissists tell you stories, but they can't back up anything they say. Like telling you yesterday to reporters that an unspecified man had been given a federal contract for 3 months and was paid for 20 years, but could not provide a single shred of evidence to back that story up. And he expects us to believe that. He expects us to believe that. And when journalists were asking for more information on that, they're like, well, we'll get it to you. We just don't have it right now. We just don't have it right now. We have to go searching for it. Well, because it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And if you're gonna make up a story, at least make it believable. At least make it plausible. Do you think journalists are really that stupid? Do you really think journalists are that stupid? Do you think they're not going to go back and research this story to try to find the evidence to back up the claim? Do you think they're going to do fact-checking on this story? And when they find nothing, they're going to go back to Trump and say, hey, we're calling you out on this story. You made it up. And Trump's going to say, no, it's true. And when Musk is saying that Doge has been looking into the net worth of some federal employees and that he considered high net worth a sign of potential fraud for a government worker. Really? You know how government works? How do you know? Maybe they've gotten bonuses over the years. Maybe they've been a government employee for like 25 years already. And maybe they've gotten bonuses or commissions or things like that. You don't know. There are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow managed to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth. We are just curious as to where it came from. Well, you can always ask them. Oh, wait, no, you can't. You fired them. You can always ask them. There's something called an audit. The IRS does it all the time. And they never tell you when they're coming, but they're doing it, right? When the IRS is seeing things on tax forms that doesn't look so up and up, They want answers, and they'll come to the companies to audit you. And when people start shredding documents, usually means they're guilty. If you really want to know, you can ask them. Oh, but you fired them, so you really can't do that anymore. Oh, shucks. What are you going to do now? And you had them wipe their computers clean, so you can't get that information, no matter how much hacking you do. So what are you going to do now, you schmuck? You can audit them. It's very simple. All you got to do is walk into the office, meet those people that you suspect, and ask them. And after you're done with them, you can verify and after you're done auditing them, you can go back to your office and verify that info. That is what every company does. Not just the IRS. That is what every company does. Okay? Every company does that. Insurance fraud. You don't think they come down to your business when they suspect something might not be kosher? If they suspect arson, you don't think they come down and say, yeah, we're going to check this out? They don't just fire every single person out of business and say, hey, we're closing you down, get out. There's the right way and there's the wrong way. And if there's fraud, if you suspect there's fraud, great. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But there's a right way to do it. If you suspect somebody's getting more money than they should, then there's a right way and there's a wrong way to do it. You can always go to a judge. You do what Jack Smith did. You go to a judge and you get an order. You get a subpoena. You get a judge to give you a subpoena to get somebody to come to court to testify. You get a subpoena. You get a court order to go through people's records. You do it the right way and you do it the legal way. And when you're telling people how you didn't get, and when you're asked how did you acquire the data on these federal employees, and you don't say how you got it, and White House is not going to answer the question, you have to wonder what exactly is going on. There is a reason why Elon Musk is not telling you what he's doing. There is a reason why they're being secretive about it. There is a reason why they're not letting you into the buildings. And I'm pretty sure Donald Trump doesn't know either. He's just getting bits and pieces just the same way we are. And you have to ask yourself, why? What exactly is going on here? What exactly is Elon Musk hiding? What is he up to? You have to ask yourself that. Because if last night's little stunt in the Oval Office didn't prove anything, then you need to start asking more and more questions. Because last night's Q&A, quote unquote, in the Oval Office was pretty much just for show. That executive order signing, specifically for Elon Musk, was just for show. That's all it was. Elon Musk is pulling the strings, not Donald Trump. Elon Musk is upstaging Donald Trump. And everybody knows it. I asked a while back, who's playing who? And the answer is clear. Elon Musk is playing Donald Trump. Elon Musk is playing everybody. Elon Musk is pulling the strings. The only question is, can it be stopped? And if it can be stopped, how and when? Because at some point, even Republicans are going to want answers. And until that comes, you should all be worried and afraid.